in Lakesh. I'm another yourself. I'm Stephanie South, and thank you to Jamie Lynn for this introduction. And I want to just begin by, I threw away what I was going to do because I feel that it's New World consciousness, and it's better to be authentic and in the moment with what's occurring right now on planet Earth and why we've all come here today. Like, why are we here right now? And this is New World consciousness, and we know everything. We've heard the other speakers, and we all are really aware that this is a pivotal time on our planet right now. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of emotion, there's many things unfolding right now that are unprecedented. And so what is this new consciousness, and what is time in light of the world that we're living in right now, and what can we do? And so I just offer some snippets of my own journey, and also to share with you some reflections about time, telepathy, and the new consciousness. And first of all, the New World consciousness, what is this new consciousness? And for me, it's living authentically in the moment, not being afraid of silence, not being afraid to really feel all the feelings that are happening within us and within the planet right now. Because until we get to a greater level of authenticity of how we feel inside of our own heart and in connection with our own feelings, then this planet, it's never going to heal. It's got to come from us first. And so my teacher was Jose Arguelles, who I called Volum Votan. Volum Votan means interdimensional portal. And my journey is all from the inner realm. And I don't have workshop models, or I follow the inner dream and just go where I'm guided to go and show up at those places. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my teacher, Jose Arguelles, who, when I was 19, I had a near-death experience that opened up the door for this journey. And I kept following the inner dream that led me to Jose. And in 2002, I came to be his apprentice or protege because something very magical happened when we encountered each other. First, I encountered him in 1998 at the Whole Earth Festival that he had started in 1970. And I remember the first thing I heard him say that changed my life was this. He said, "Who owns your time owns your mind. Who owns your time owns your mind. Own your own time and know your own mind." And that really struck me at the time. I was working as a newspaper reporter. And I would be sitting at my office and thinking, what am I doing sitting in these boring meetings? And I was like, who owns your time, who owns your mind? What am I doing with my life? And so all we have is time. It's more valuable than any gold, is the time that we have between the time we enter this planet and the time we exit the planet. And it's time right now to rise up even further and do what we know to do and what we've come to do, because on one level there is no time left, third dimensionally speaking. We know if we look at things from the third dimensional perspective that if we look at all the statistics, it's the sixth extinction. There's no hope for humanity if you look just from the third dimensional linear model. And with the fears of war looming again, it's just the same cycles that keep repeating over and over and over until we finally, as a species, wake up and get it. And what is it going to take, to actually get it? And my feeling is that it goes back to, each of us really getting in touch with our own rhythms, back to nature, back to our own intelligence and remembering our own power and taking that back. Who owns your time owns your mind. Most people spend a lot of time on Facebook, Google. Who owns your time owns your mind. And we know about, from the other speakers, we know all the levels of mind control. We're all aware of the electromagnetic field and everything that's being done, but I feel that we're even more powerful than that. We've forgotten. And there's a new energy that's coming in through our sun. There's new cosmic energy that we can tune into at any time that bypasses this control. We've forgotten, we give our power away to the control. It's not that it's not happening, because it is on the third dimensional level, but we are multidimensional beings. And we have to own our own time and own our own mind again, and not be influenced by media, by anything that anyone tells us, anybody, unless it really resonates in our own being. And I was involved since 2002 in an experiment in time with Jose. In, as I mentioned, when we came together, that was during the time of, shortly after the Iraq War and everything that was accelerating. And we felt we would come together face to face, and what we found was we were in perfect resonance. And it was as though a stargate or a portal opened and just began pouring through information that didn't stop until his passing in 2011. And every day, we would, it was an initial 260-day process. Every day we would sit across from each other for 3 hours, and we would wait for the stream. And when that came in, it would open us, and it would transport us to other times, other worlds, other dimensions. And I feel, it was a covenant that we remembered from another time, to come back during this time and retrieve this knowledge. But it took the male and the female, the older male, the younger female, the passing of knowledge in an archetypal manner. We were known as Votan and Red Queen. Why is that? Not because I'm some queen in that sense, or because all of the stereotypes of queen. It has to do with a tomb in Chiapas, Mexico. And backtracking a bit, in 2000, I was taken to Mexico. It was my first time outside of the United States. And I was taken with a group to all the pyramids. And I was kind of naive, working as a newspaper reporter. I didn't know a lot about Mayan pyramids, but it was a free trip, and I got invited to this trip, and it sounded exciting. But what occurred is we went to Chiapas, Mexico, to go see the tomb of Pakal Votan, the Temple of Inscriptions, and right next to it was another tomb, and I didn't know anything about it. It was called the Tomb of the Red Queen, because they had discovered a woman there in 1994, but they didn't know her identity because there wasn't one inscription on her tomb, or even outside it. There were no inscriptions, so it was very mysterious. And when they went to open up the tomb, she had red cinnabar covering all over, and so it was just red. So she was the anonymous feminine. This is archetypal, symbolic. The anonymous feminine that's uninscribed next to the tomb of the male king who's full of inscriptions. So the transmission, so I laid on the steps and I had my first vision where I was basically, it was startling because I had never had an experience like that before. And it was a remembrance, and I was taken in through my own body down to the underground chambers, and I kept going down and down and down. And I saw that all of the pyramid structures and all of the sacred sites were held together, and at that time I knew nothing, but were held together by these electronic lines of force that had been severed. And how were we going to reconnect this electrical circuitry so that everything would become whole again or light back up? And so that was the vision that I had there. 2 years later, I came to be the protege or apprentice, or I need another word for all of that. But I came to be the student of Jose, who held a lot of knowledge, not only about pyramids, but he was, he had studied all the world art and religions and everything. So like I said, when we came together, we called it was a between the worlds transmission from the inscribed male to the uninscribed female. So from Wotan to Red Queen archetypally, because Jose and Stephanie just doesn't work. It's too loaded with historical data. But when we entered that, like I said, it was the most beautiful, magical experiences of teleportation, time travel, everything. Because when two come together in perfect resonance and in perfect harmony, with no static between them, just open and free, you're transported. And especially if you have a mission or a remembrance of a mission. And so this knowledge was downloaded, and we didn't know what to do with all of it, and we ended up putting it into 7 volumes called the Cosmic History Chronicles. And it covered every facet of knowledge. We called it the reformulation of the human mind, because what he had studied for a very long time, and then what I was coming into is we need a new consciousness. And so this is the new world consciousness, and we need to begin to articulate, what is this new consciousness? And how is it different from the old consciousness? And how can we begin to have a direct experience of this new consciousness? Because words don't mean anything unless you're having that direct experience. So all knowledge, what good is it if you're not having that direct experience or embodying it? And so part of my mission is to awaken, or hopefully tap some memories for everyone or people to be able to access a little bit more of what their particular unique mission or treasure inside is. Because, the old historical cycle is over. We've never been here before. This is new. We're in completely new territory, and we can't expect to apply old consciousness to what's facing us right now. It just doesn't work. You can't pour the old wine into the new bottles. And so I believe that a new vessel has already been created, and we are the new wine. But we have to remember and take back our own power and stop listening to so much secondhand information as I speak. But remember, I'm another yourself. And so the best we can do is share what we've learned and what we've experienced, in hopes that it'll activate something inside of somebody else so that they can access their multidimensional self, or access those locked away parts of ourself, those forgotten parts. And so, I have been given a lot of different types of knowledge, but what good is it if people are suffering? What good is it if other people haven't discovered their own treasures? And so, so what's been received, I want to just get back to, let me get back to the story of with Jose. We left the United States in 2006 because we needed to be in a more private location so that we could purely experiment with these new states of consciousness or have this knowledge come through. So we went to New Zealand and then to Australia, and we were working on the 7 volumes. We had gotten 6 done, and then he suddenly died. And we were living, for years in Australia in a remote location with just the kangaroos, and working on the Cosmic History Chronicles, and working on also the male and female relation. And we looked at all the different programs of the masculine and feminine, and I can say that I feel so blessed to, at a young age, have had a perfect resonance with a male, like just perfect harmony and excitement every day when I woke up to see what the new adventure and what I was going to learn and what the new knowledge was going to be. So, as I said, he passed away very suddenly with hardly any notice. But before he passed away, I said, how I have to write the 7th volume. Can you help me from the other side? And he assured me that he would do his best to help from the other side. And so, so he passed away, and I took the deep inner journey, and I stayed by myself for 2 years, hardly seeing anybody in Australia from 2011 till the very end of 2012. And the only reason I left, and by the way, that changes your whole perception and reality to, first, as many of you have had, first of all, somebody close to you pass away, but then to remain alone. I was working on finishing the rest of our work for 2 years alone, really delving into the psyche of what it means to be human and having a lot of, say, otherworldly contact experiences, because when you're there alone, it's easy. And it's natural and it's normal. But what ended up happening was December 21st, 2012, of course, he had put that on the map with the Mayan factor as not the end of the world, but a shift of consciousness. And he was really the one that put that into the forefront of the mainstream consciousness with the Mayan factor and the Harmonic Convergence. How many have heard of Harmonic Convergence? And we're coming up on the 30th year of Harmonic Convergence on August 16th. The Harmonic Convergence was the first large, widely spread, global, worldwide meditation for peace at all the sacred sites in 1987. And it was before the internet, so they had to fax all the information to people and send letters, but people converged all over the planet, and a lot of people experienced life-changing awakening at that time. And so he'd put December 21st, 2012 on the map. And so one evening in Australia, I had no plans to even come back to the United States, but one evening in Australia, I was doing some work, working with the codes that Jamie Lynn showed a little bit of, but working with activating what's called the Holo Mind Perceiver, which is the new mental sphere, which was something that we were working with. It's a mathematical code to activate your corpus callosum in order to, say, interface, but I won't open up that file too far right now. The point is, I was working with this, and I went outside to get some wood. It was cold. It was winter time. I was in a colder part of Australia. I went to get some wood and I saw 4 things in the sky. And more than I saw them, I felt them. And it was 4 ships or, something in the sky, but because I felt the vibration go through my body like, and I got images of Mexico, of Palenque, and I got a message that said, go back for December 21st, 2012, and close the cycle, that Jose to close his mission, to go back and do that. And then I was shown another flash of Mount Shasta, California, and it said, go open the new cycle there, the new beam of consciousness there in 2013. So I ignored that for a little bit, but I kept dreaming about it. And about a week later, I went back out and I saw the same ships outside again. And the same thing happened to me. And so I made a decision and I left everything in Australia. I took 2 suitcases and went to Mexico with a one-way ticket on December 13th, 2012. And I went December 21st, 2012. There was a big ceremony, and I, on behalf of Jose, helped to speak to close out that particular cycle of consciousness. It was pouring down rain. It was crazy, but many people showed up, and we went to the home of a Mayan elder, and as soon as we showed up, ships appeared in the sky again. And so for me, following the inner dream, that was a confirmation that I was on the right track and that I was following the inner guidance and that I wasn't crazy. And so that occurred, and then I went to Mount Shasta, July 25th, 2013, and we had a big sunrise ceremony to open up the new cycle or the new beam of consciousness, because sometimes you have to make a conscious effort with people to articulate what you're doing, because then it's heard and it's reciprocated. And so we had to make the action to open it up, and we were met with the most beautiful double rainbow in the sky, and it was just such another magical confirmation. And so that's a little bit about the journey, and it's all about time and consciousness and redefining our relationship with time. Because what is time? It's not linear. It's not, like I said, if we just looked at the data of where the world is at from a linear 3D perspective, it looks hopeless. Like if you look at we won't go through all the issues because we already know them, so we don't need to repeat. And we see that once again, we're at the precipice of the looming threat of nuclear war, which just seems to repeat itself over and over. There's something we haven't learned. And there's the thing is, people who blame one person or another person, that's crazy. Because this is a collective dream, and the best that we can do is not blame out there. That's not going to do any good. The best we can do is work in here from the inner realm and not give our power away out there, because it's like we have to take responsibility that we've helped to co-create everything that's existing right now. And and I just want to also speak to the ETs and the UFOs and everything that's going on. My perspective and understanding, because I've had the experiences, but the same thing applies through all the dimensions and galaxies of in Lakesh, I am another yourself. Whether it's a Syrian, a Pleiadian, a this or a that, or whatever that people see. And I also feel that this galactic intelligence, which is coming through, the telepathic beams that are coming through the sun, if we attune to the sun, which is the solar consciousness, which is responsible for, evolving our DNA and evolving everything about us. It's really the sun that's administering all of this, and we're coming on this solar eclipse really soon, so all of the energies are really heightened right now. So the sun and the galactic consciousness and all of the, the galactic community, our star family, whatever that you want to call it. Sometimes we need new words for all of this because words are so loaded sometimes, like even like alien or ET or all of that just starts to sound like, I don't know, a movie or something, and we all have all these old conditionings with all of that. But how I view it is there's different thinking layers in the cosmos, and at any time, because our bodies are radio stations, transmitting and receiving, and at any moment, we can, if our mind is clear enough, we can tune in to any one of those particular thinking layers and receive feedback or receive information. And the world is moving into the artificial intelligence, but the law of time is the antidote. It's the organic intelligence. It's the intelligence it's the knowledge that we are time. We are the greatest technology. All of the highest tech machines and nanotechnology, all of that came from the mind. It's actually primitive on that level, and it's been done in past civilizations before. This is all nothing new. We're just a replay of cycle after cycle. It goes back to the destroyed planets and goes back into the cosmic history and all of that. But we're here once again, and we've been here before. So how do we do it different? So that we don't destroy ourselves again. And part of my journey also was to Jose was the memory of being a child on a planet. And it's like I had the secrets of how to save it, but I was only a child and nobody would listen to me. And I knew that the planet, I have the memory, it was a recurring dream as a child, that the planet was heating up and everyone was oblivious to it. Everyone was, I remember like in the dream, there were big parties happening and people were doing anything they could to numb themselves out of what was actually really going on. And so the pressure was building and building, and in the dream, I was a child and I couldn't speak. Oh, that was good. Or articulate it, nobody would listen, and before I knew it, I have the memory of like the explosion and being catapulted like through space. I remember doing astral somersaults through space and landing on another planet. But that memory, why I say that, it's an archetypal memory embedded into each of our consciousness. Where do we think that like fear of nuclear war or all the fears that we have, the death fear, it's because of a memory of an experiment that maybe didn't go so well in the past, and an experiment that maybe we that we're afraid to repeat again because we know how horrible those past experiments were. And when I came to be with Jose, I understood that planet as Maldek or Tiamat or the asteroid belt that was once in our solar system, that threw our whole solar system, hence threw our chakra system out of whack, so we're out of sync. Because if you have a missing organ in your system or that's destroyed, then the whole thing is not functioning properly in the solar system, and we are a microcosm of the greater whole, of the planet, of the solar system, of the galaxy, of the universe. And so, but it all comes back to us and to our body, and to knowing that our body is the greatest hidden treasure. And that's why with all the mind control and everything, everything that's going on, I mean, it's all been done before. We've already been here before, but what is trying to, what they, and who are they, it's all part of our mind. But what are they trying to keep us from is knowing ourselves and unleashing our own power and getting back in touch with our own rhythm and cycles. And so, and reconnecting that, because then nothing could stop that force. And so it's an age-old, this has been set forth aeons ago in other worlds and other times, and we're just the actors on the stage now repeating the same show, but we want to steer it in another direction. And we know that there's many tools and many things, but at some point, all the tools, all the things just become more things in our mind. And it just can become too much sometimes. And sometimes it is about, not what we can acquire, but what we can let go of. And right now, I think it's a time of needing to simplify our lives even more and just get rid of the clutter. I know there's a lot of feng shui people here too, and just release what's not serving us anymore and begin to really just get really honest with ourselves and take a moral inventory. And if relationships aren't working, if this isn't working, to just release, because we only have a short period of time between the interval we're given between our entry and exit here. So we really want to make sure that we've done everything that we can do to actualize ourselves, because by doing that, we're helping many people more than we even know. Because that energy, because we are a radio broadcast and receiver, it emits out. It emits out all the way to the cosmos and is affecting everything. So all of the thoughts that we're thinking right now in this room is a microcosm. Everything you're thinking and feeling right now is rippling out, and it's actually creating this talk too, because there's only one mind ultimately. And it's as though we live through a hall of mirrors, and we're always trying to polish the mirror and hopefully give better reflections to each other, that we can really help each other, because this is part of a huge collective project that we're working on, which, as Jose always said, it's to make the earth back into a work of art, to make it a masterpiece again by our actions and everything that we're doing. And so time, which is the theme of the talk, time is a frequency. And it's the frequency of synchronization, natural time. But we're living in artificial timing frequency. So artificial machine time produces rote consciousness, always going faster and faster to keep up with the machine and exhausting our own bodies. And it also creates artificial food and GMOs and artificial lights and artificial people, inauthentic presences, projecting images that really aren't themselves. And so this is also a time when we go back to the tomb of the Red Queen and the symbology of being uninscribed. So it's as though we are unwinding. It's like we were a mummy and we were mummified and we were wound up so tightly into this system, and now finally, the spool is coming off and we're unwinding. But in the process, you have to go back through everything that you didn't look at before. And so on our planet today, bless our beautiful planet, but the humans are a different story. But the humans, what I see happening right now is that this new beam consciousness is accelerating on our planet. And anytime a new frequency or a new light comes in, it stirs up the whole cauldron of the unconscious and the whole cauldron of everything for eons that has not yet been looked at and unearthed. And so all the players are playing their roles perfectly. The political players, the players on the stage, they are activating the landmines, if you will, but before we can completely heal, everything from the unconscious has to be brought up to the conscious, and it's so obvious right now. It's just, we can see the whole thing. And, and it was interesting, I'm a little bit jet lagged right now, but I just came from Europe, and it was amazing to see that, the level of machine technology in travel or at the airports. I got to Munich airport in Germany and tried to go get like transportation, but there's no human there. It's a hologram like helping you. And then looking at the, the airports and seeing people going to McDonald's, and it's all like machine automated. And of course, and the hotels and everything, it's not, I think we all know, but when you travel, you can kind of get a sense of this is really happening everywhere. And there's something that the cognitive dissonance in that, or the agitation that it creates inside the human, because it's like there's no human there. In this machine world, the artificial intelligence, the law of time is the antidote. And there's, it's a new timing program of, it begins, the daily calendar is just, the 13 moon 28-day calendar is just like a daily affirmation or something to get your mind lens focused in another time, in a time that's more harmonious, that's more even than the Gregorian structure of the 12-month calendar and the 60-minute clock, which is called the 1260, 12-month calendar, 60-minute clock. 1260 artificial timing frequency that's governing our planet. It's what Jose, it was his main life mission, was to travel to different places and inform people of the two timing frequencies of the 1260 artificial timing frequency that is like destroying itself. It's on self-destruct. And what's called the 1320 natural timing frequency. 13 is the key number, the repressed feminine energy, the 13, the taboo number. 13 because we have 13 joints in our body and 20 fingers and toes. And so we are actually embodying time. We are the UFOs. We just have to learn how to operate this system. We don't even know what our bodies are. But they're more than what they look like, that's for sure. And so in the seventh, in that 13, the seventh tone in our body is our spinal column, which is that's how we tune in, or that's our antenna to the cosmos or to the spirit, is through our spinal column, which is the resonant tone of attunement. And so staying attuned at all time. So everything is in the body. The law of time is the antidote to artificial intelligence. And Jose's final discovery before he passed away was every day he would be up like at 4:30 in the morning working on codes, and they were all mathematical codes, and they were all timing frequencies and mathematical codes. But the point is that what he discovered was what's called the Holo mind perceiver. And that sounds, the Holo mind perceiver is basically, say, the new nano chip that is available organically to us now, because as technology is increasing and they want to plant real chips into the brain, this is the organic, telepathic nano chip that's inserted into the corpus callosum. And it's basically the upgrade for the human. It's the new evolutionary model or structure. But I'm not going to open up that door too much, other than to say that as I was working with this, the final book that I did was on this, the Book of the Cube, on the Holo mind perceiver, and the upgrade of humanity through natural technology of learning how this operating system works, and how we are able to activate our brain frequencies that's not artificial, machine-controlled brain frequencies. So I've been working with this knowledge and evolving it into ways that are more palatable to be able to communicate, because obviously it's a lot of numbers, but it's also easy to get. It's basically the science behind our sixth sense. And it's the key to, it's the organic timeline and the key to activating our dormant superhero powers, if you will, which are normal. Telepathy, teleportation, bilocation, time travel, all of that is what it's leading into. And there's a whole system to this and a whole keys and codes. But like I said, his mission was to point out the artificial timing frequency and the natural timing frequency, and to tell people there is a choice. There's a choice. And the natural timing frequency also has to do with the natural food and the herbs and getting back to nature, but not in a way where we have to just go and just live off the land and have nothing. It's not like that, because this is an upgraded version of all of this. And so, it's a work in progress, and we're evolving so rapidly, but I feel that what we need is to start forming groups, memory retrieval groups. So, because when we come together, we can help activate each other's memory that we can't get to it sometimes by ourselves or on our own, or we need other reflections to understand who we are and to know what we're carrying. Because if we have, I was envisioning memory retrieval groups, because everyone has to activate their unique memory, because I feel that's a puzzle piece to put this whole picture together so that the new game board can light up. And it's essential that we remember the missing pieces inside of ourselves. And, and that requires not being afraid of silence. Silence. I spend a lot of time alone. And so even coming out or doing things, it's always very interesting, because I'm hearing myself talk right now, but really I'm far more into silence. Because a lot happens in the silence. And I think I just want to say, as another yourself, to don't be afraid of your feelings and emotions, and allow them to come out and be released from you, because it's so important that we don't repress anymore. It's not good for us to repress energy anymore. And we have to clear our vessels so that we're ready for the new wine to be poured into us, because it's pouring in right now, and it's coming in. Like I said, the sun is the focalization point. It's a stargate. And so it's all coming in through the sun, but we can even visualize that we are the sun. We can become the sun and be like the sun, which shines on everybody equally without discrimination. And so the sun is a good example, and coming up on this powerful solar eclipse, we can't underestimate the shifts that are actually happening in the sun right now, which is evolving our own DNA. But back to the science, or the science of silence, the silence of science and synchronicity. That was just my own little play, sorry there. But silence, and not being afraid of it. When all of this knowledge came through, it came through after a few hours in silence. To just empty, let's just take a few moments right now to just empty our mind, and just to breathe, and just to feel into our body for a moment, and just breathe, and just release whatever thought, and try to focus on your heart and allowing that energy to start circulating inside of you, and feel that it's coming through the sun, and feel how much you're loved, because we forget. And so just opening up the heart and allowing the warmth to nurture us, and to know that ultimately everything's going to be okay, even though it doesn't appear like that sometimes. but we've been here before. And the most important thing is to feel more love, and to really feel more love in our heart, because our time here is very short. And without love, knowledge is meaningless. It's cold and empty without the warmth of the love. And so the silence and just feeling your own being and just the self-love and self-acceptance that we don't have to be perfect. And this new consciousness is about, to me, is about authenticity with how you're feeling in the moment, and letting your body guide you. And we don't have to try to be anything anymore, because it's too much energy. It's too hard. And I think if we can allow ourselves to just dissolve back to the source and not be afraid to be nothing, then we're filled up with everything. So that's basically the transmission of the GM108X. That was the Between the Worlds transmission. It's called Galactic Mayan Mind Transmission. And like I said, these are just words, but it's a frequency, new frequency, a new vibration. And so words are just vehicles to carry a new vibration through. So in a way, it doesn't even matter what we say as long as it's positive, because we are emitting a new vibration. If we've said yes to becoming an emitter of this new vibration, everything that we do is helping to emit that, and really is all about getting with the new beam of consciousness, and knowing that, you know, people like watching the news and watching everything, which is of course great to be informed, but what I'm getting at is people are reacting to a world of shadows without tracing the shadows back to the projection booth. It's a movie. So all these scenes and things are playing out, but we're reacting to the projections instead of turning back inward and finding where's the projector of this movie and how do we change this film? And that's part of the new beam, because the new beam is a new information bundle that's being emitted from several different star systems, all coming through our sun, and is available at every moment if we're open to receive that, and if we become like little children again and just play and be curious. We can turn fear into curiosity. So if there's something you're afraid of, get curious about it and start questioning it. And then you find that maybe there is nothing to be afraid of. And as children, you know, we're taught, don't be afraid of the dark. Why should we be? Who is the dark? But shadows of our own mind are unillumined parts of our own consciousness. What good is fear going to do anyway? And so fear, you know, and our ultimate fear is death fear. You know, that's the ultimate thing. People reacting because we're afraid to be obliterated. We're afraid to not exist. But if we already dissolve ourselves back to nothing, then we're not really afraid of not existing third dimensionally, or, you know, letting go of that fear, and we can be more effective to be fearless for other people and to be a lighthouse for others, to give them comfort, because, you know, there's a lot of things that are going to be playing out in 3D, and there's no getting around it, because this is something that was set in motion long ago. All that we can control is our response, and maintaining maintaining the light and maintaining our love and not giving into hate and fear. Because as soon as we begin to blame another, we latch into that frequency, and we're brought down to that frequency level. So it's really important to not go to those levels, because then we're no good for ourselves and we're not good for anybody else. And so if we can in that moment that we start to feel tempted to go into those lower emotions, we can just wake ourselves up and remember that we're here to hold a new vibration so that everybody else can come up to the next level. And no one knows what'll play out in 3D, but it's up to each one of us to, access our own consciousness and just to be okay with the silence. And I'll wrap it up there in the silence. So, okay, thank you.